Welcome to Recovery TV Live. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, so if you're joining us again, we appreciate you joining us. We have a really special show today. We're going to talk about parenting in a pornified culture, and we have a special guest, Diana, with us today, and we'll be introducing her in just a minute, so stay with us. Thank you for joining us again for Recovery TV Live. And Diana, thank you for being with us today. Let's cover a little bit of some housekeeping things before we get into our show today. All these episodes will be published on our YouTube channel, and you're welcome to visit our YouTube channel, which you see the link to that on your screen. But if you're watching the rebroadcast version of this on YouTube, we really would encourage you to like our Facebook page, because this is where you will see more events like this show up, and you can also engage with us live on Recovery TV Live. And so Diana, thank you for being here today. Let's talk a little bit about this program that you have called, this business that you have called the Computer Monkey.
Okay. Thank you for having me. The Computer Monkey is my business I started in 2005, and I'm a sole proprietor. I take care of computer issues for small businesses and home users. The small businesses that are too small to have their own IT staff could call me in, and I help them with those kind of things. I do a lot of work right now remotely, because the technology has improved so much on that kind of thing. So I'm actually able to help people nationwide, which I do all the time. Wow. And so that's really allowed me to reach more people. So
very cool. Very cool. And so you just wire right into their systems, and people are actually comfortable letting you do that.
Yes, I use a secure product called GoToAssist, and it is safe and secure, and I do recommend that nobody ever let anyone on their computer that they don't trust.
Right.
That is certainly important.
Right. So if you didn't catch that, that means that Diana can work with you wherever you are. If you have the internet,
that's right.
Basically, she can help you and assist you in that way. And one of the areas that you're assisting people with, and this is why we actually wanted you to come on the show, is because it's this concept called cyber parenting, but your program is called sensible cyber parenting. Yes. We definitely want to hear more about that.
Yes, that's why we're here. So I started that because I saw a need, in some of the situations I was being asked to come into and help with were after the fact, after a child had already gotten into trouble online. And so I realized there was a need, and that parents needed resources. It was confusing. Everything that was out there, what do they do? And so I started the website Sensible Cyber Parenting to provide just information for them to be able to go there and be able to look at the products that are available, the services that are available, find out why they need to do this. And I'm not about ridding your lives of technology. I'm about being able to use it and still use it safely, though, for your family, because there's so many great things about technology. Right. I love it. I'm a geek, at heart, and so I think it's great, but it needs to be done properly so that you can keep your kids and family safe.
Sure, for sure.
So we actually have a question for our viewers, the discussion question of this episode, and let me get that put on the screen here, is what are the biggest tech concerns you're dealing with as a parent? And I know that you and I both have kids, right. And they're getting, my kids are using tech since 3, but now they're getting to that age where they're starting to get online, and my nerves are, I don't know, there's so much that there is out there for them, way more than what we had.
Yeah.
When we as a kid.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Even more than we use probably on our daily basis, right?
Yeah.
At work, for our job. Yeah.
So what are you hearing parents say to you in terms of, these are the concerns we're dealing with? Are they feeling overwhelmed? Because that's what I know I feel as a parent.
They don't know where to begin. most of the ones that I speak to are very concerned with pornography. The ones who are concerned and who are wanting to do something about it, pornography is one of their major concerns. It's also one of mine. Frankly, the media might lead people to believe that it's cyberbullying or child predation, kids being abducted due to strangers online. And while those are frightening and horrible things, they're just a lot less common. The thing that is so prevalent and so common for kids to get into trouble with is pornography, simply because it's a few clicks away, and the pornographers are targeting children. They're purposely trying to lure in the next generation of customers. That's why they buy a website name that is maybe Disney or Nickelodeon misspelled, in hopes that a child is going to stumble on it. So they're looking to try to get the next, generation of customers. And so it's also something that people don't talk about. It's kind of an uncomfortable subject. And so that is another reason that I feel like it really is one of the bigger threats, because if you're not willing to talk about it, then you're not going to do anything to maybe prevent it. So that's why I feel pornography is. But the good news is that if you take care of that, if you try to implement steps to protect your family for that, you're going to be protecting them for the other threats as well.
What are some of the other threats, in addition to either purposely seeking or stumbling upon pornography on the internet?
Well, you have them being approached online by a stranger, and kids, revealing too much information, which would put themselves at risk and be exposed to, possible abduction. There is cyberbullying, and just the emotional toll that takes can be very, very serious. Just simply malware damage to your data files of your family computer because they've stumbled onto something they shouldn't. Other content that is just terrible for a child to see. It doesn't have to just be pornography. It could be violence. There's horrific violent things, images, and so that can be very scarring as well. So it's mainly content that I think is the biggest threat overall. The cyberbullying and things like that certainly are out there, but if you warn against the content, if you protect against the content, then the other things kind of fall into place as well.
Yeah, sure.
That's really interesting. There was something that really struck me, this quote that actually you sent me, and I'll put it on our viewer screen right now. So it really took me back, because I'll just read it real quickly. It says, "We rightly claim that pornography is an addiction, but we don't seem to be challenging the dealers of this drug. Who are these dealers? Parents. Parents who foolishly give their teens and preteens free rein with their smartphones, and by doing so have invited the world into their child's bedroom each night." I mean, that was a very powerful quote, because I was like, like I'm peddling, in a way, kind of peddling their product by not monitoring their devices. So we hand our kids, I've always said, like, when you hand your kid a device that's not monitored, it's like handing them a hand grenade.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree, and I can't stress that enough. I would not let any age child have a device that is connected to the internet in their possession, either whether it's their own or just to use for a while. If it's connected to the internet, if it doesn't have some sort of protection. And that could just mean that you've turned on guided access on your iPad. If it's your iPad and you don't need parental controls typically on your own iPad, but you can set it with guided access so that you hand it over to them and they have to stay in that game or whatever that is you're letting them use. But I've heard too many stories, I mean, even right here in our own metro area, about young children who had a telephone passed back to them in the car, to keep them busy while they're in the car, and stumbled onto pornography. And it wasn't for months or even a year that the parent found out that had happened. And these are young children. You wouldn't, you would just be shocked.
And you would want to know that when it happens. The down the road thing too. Exactly. Is the scary part, especially as a family therapist, to think kids have something going on that you're unaware of. That gets your anxiety flowing for sure. Yeah,
because then damage has really already been done, and their young minds. I mean, this is your expertise. This really isn't mine, but their young minds are so malleable. I mean, it really is even worse the younger they are if they stumble on it.
So why do you think parents aren't protecting You know,
Well,
they're
I ask
protecting
myself-
their devices. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I wonder that so much sometimes, because that was one of the things that when my kids were little, I just was so, even back then, you know, because of some things that just came up on our computer screen, because when we first had children, the internet was kind of new, and the email, and we'd gotten a couple of really concerning emails, and I thought, wow, if my kids stumbled on that. So I've always been passionate about it, probably because of what I do. But I think they've talked to their kids and they've told them, you know, don't do this. You know, they've quote, put the fear of God into them. You know, you're going to get, you'll lose privileges for a year if you do that. So they think that maybe that's going to be enough. And also, you know, we tend to think that, oh, my child wouldn't do that.
Sure.
And the truth is, they may not do that, but they may. And most of the time, they stumble on it by accident.
Yeah, it's like you said, like if the porn industry has purchased all these different URLs,
Exactly.
you know, then it could be real easy for them to be typing in something like Disney or doing some research for school, and then stumble into it. And of course, when that from the mental health standpoint, when that happens, they're going to get a dopamine surge, you know, because it generates a lot of mixed feelings of that feels really good, but I know as probably even a kid knows that I probably should be watching that. That's why they don't tell their parents immediately, like, look what I just found.
Right.
Because they know it's forbidden, I guess, in a way. But that also creates a nice little chemical concoction in their brains, in their little tiny brains.
Yeah, it actually changes the chemicals in their brain. And that's why it is so frightening and alluring to them when they see it. They don't, you know, necessarily know to turn away. Now, one thing that can really help, and this is something that I didn't originally, when I started doing sensible cyber parenting, I was approaching it completely from the tech perspective. But what I've learned through my research and through different, you know, events I've been involved with is that it really is so important, and I'm sure you guys know this, but to protect their minds. And there is a book that is called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and it is written by a lady named Kristen Jensen and Gail Pointer, they two ladies, and it helps parents navigate that in order to help their child develop a filter to have the appropriate response if and when they are confronted with pornographic or other, you know, content that is definitely, you know, dangerous to them and could cause problems. It at least kind of prepares them, you know, forewarned is forearmed, and it helps them to have that proper response, like, oh, this is what we read about in that book, this is what mom was talking about, even though they may not ever actually describe to a young child what pornography is. You know, you would shudder at the fact of doing that, but through what's learned in that book, they're able to recognize it, and if you can name it, then you can have the proper response to it, or at least you're more likely to. And helps them have a self-filter.
So. And you know, one of the things that we talk about with our clients and their families is that as a parent, one of the things people get nervous about is having the sex talk with their children. But now, just to make it a little more anxiety-provoking, that sex talk must include a talk about pornography.
Because it's just so prevalent.
And we also kind of take it a step further and talk about it as that it should be more of a conversation.
Oh, definitely. Because it's not just a talk.
And because I think, you know, the kind of embedded in the idea of the sex talk is shame. Because even people are like, when you're like, did your parents have the sex talk? They're like, yeah, and they kind of like, that's kind of like a pat on the back, but it's like just one talk. That's what we had. And within that is so much shame. And the reality is, with what I'm talking about with a lot of my clients is, it's not a matter of if your kids see porn these days, it's when. And so you need to start dialogue, because shame will kind of creep its way into the picture, and that is what will start, like, that's more like a seed of addiction that gets planted, and it's a driving force for kids to want to continue to see that, because shame is at the helm of addictions. And so as much as we don't want our kids to view that material, and it's harmful to that material, we don't want them to be overwhelmed by a sense of shame where they want to keep that secret, start to feel like something's wrong with them, and they can't say, hey, like, I've stumbled onto this stuff, and not be afraid of big parental emotional reactions from it.
And one of the ways I'm thinking as a parent to manage your own, shame, embarrassment, anxiety, is to have an understanding of what to do, right? And I think that's what sensible cycle parenting is so helpful with, because you're able to navigate that. But I also know that there's so many devices that need this kind of, you've got your gaming devices that can access the internet, phones and iPads and computers, right?
So many.
But there's so many, right? And I'm not incredibly techie, so I don't even, I'm sure, know all of that. But, what are some of the devices that you are, helping people manage?
Well, it needs to be a layered and a kind of a whole home approach. And so that begins with the router, because that's where the internet comes into your home, is through your router. And so I definitely stress a layered approach. You want to start there. And then I have a page on my website called Getting Started that really can help step people through this, seemingly daunting task. And what I tell them to do is, first of all, you kind of start with preparing yourself to understand why this is important, and then preparing your child's mind, like we talked about already, and then just kind of taking a step back and making notes about all of the devices you have, whether they leave the home or not. And if they do leave the home, you have to do some things different, taking advantage of the parental controls that come with each device. Because typically, I can't even think of any right now that don't come with something, even like your Xbox and your PlayStation, they all have parental controls built in now to some degree. Some they don't do that much, but others do. And so you want to take advantage of what you've got already, and then you look at what you can do that you may need to buy. But starting with the router, there's some very simple and free things that you can implement with the router. There's something called OpenDNS that parents can put on the router, basically by changing a few numbers on the router. That will just kind of filter that out. And it not only protects against pornography, you can set it to protect against a lot of things, but it also can help keep your home free from viruses and phishing scams and things like that. So really, anyone should put that on the router.
Win-win.
Yeah. But so you start there, and then you just build out from there. And the Getting Started page, I think I still thought, even with the information that I'm putting out there, because I want my website to be a searchable database of this information, I knew that even that was kind of hard to, what do I do? Where do I start? And so I came up with that Getting Started page to kind of help them navigate. It's like eating an elephant. It's like one bite at a time. And so you just, have to take each step. But I highlight different products and things like that as well.
Now let's go ahead and just tell the viewers what your website is. It's sensiblecyberparenting.com. Okay. So, and I noticed that on that website there is a link to the Getting Started.
Yes.
We're also going to put a link to that in the description of the YouTube video, but we'll have it in the comments section of this live feed. So if you're watching the live feed, you can look in Valerie has already posted that, and it is there for you to click on and go ahead and to get started.
That's right.
That's what it's for.
Right.
So go ahead and
That's why we're here.
Right.
Yeah, and it's all free. Everything there is free. There's not even you have to sign up for my newsletter if you want to get to it. It's completely free.
Right.
So.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So one thing that you sent me as well, something this is all new stuff for us too, which is I feel kind of like I'm not doing my job very well, considering that Carrie and I are in the sex addiction therapy profession. That I've never heard of some of these things that you do. So there's this one device here. I'm going to find it real quickly and put it on the screen for the viewers to see. It's called Circle by Disney.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us a little about this. Is fascinating to me.
Yeah. Okay. So I do try to highlight a lot of different products on my website, and I try not to get married to one particular one, because I want people to be able to choose, just what's best for their family. But ever since Circle came out, it was kind of like an answer to prayers. It just really was one of those products I thought, finally, and it's not that there aren't still other good products out there, but this was just one of those things that it was a real game changer, I think. I wished it had been around when my kids could have used it. Unfortunately, it came out after, they were done with in high school and going off to college, but anyway, it lets you protect your whole home and the devices as they leave when you use both of their products. So the Circle device is a little square device that will attach to your router with cabling. You can also do it wirelessly, but you'll get better performance if you do it with a cable. And it gives a parent complete control over the various accounts in their home, and you set up an account for each one of your children, and then you can do it from your smartphone, and it gives you such a broad array of controls. It's not only filtering, but which apps you're going to allow, time limits, and it's even time limits within a certain app. So you may allow one app because maybe it's important for school. You may allow it for a longer amount of time than the other one. You may allow one on the weekend and you don't. It gives you an extreme amount of those type of controls. So it's really, really good. And then the Circle Go is their companion subscription product, and it will go with them, basically on the devices that leave your home. Now, one really great thing that's come out lately with regard to Circle is that Netgear, who produces routers, manufacturers routers, they have some of their routers. They are their higher end routers, but they come with Circle built in. Now Circle costs about $99. Now if you go to my website, there is actually a link with a coupon code, and you can get it for $10 less, but you may be able to do that on Amazon on any day too. So just get it wherever you can for the best price. But the Circle Go is a subscription, but even within the parental control products that have subscriptions, it's very reasonable. It's $4.99 a month for up to 10 devices. And compared to a lot of other products, that is still very good. So I'm just thrilled that they've come out with that. And I, like I said, there are still other good products, and I'm still all about layering. Go ahead and use the free MobiSip browser app on their phone and use Circle. Go ahead and take advantage of what's out there that's free and layer.
And is that what you're saying is kind of the most important message when it comes to protecting is you got to have layers. You can't think that one is enough.
Exactly. Layer, and then it's like the talk. It's not just a one-time thing. It's not set it and forget it. It's a constant thing, and you have to keep continually expanding their fence. It's just like with a baby. They start out in a pack and play, and then you let them out a little. They get bigger and bigger in their area of where they're able to go. And it's the same with online. And I cannot stress enough that parents should start earlier, much earlier than they think.
Is that what you think most parents are forgetting?
I think that is definitely one of the things they think, I don't need to worry about that until they're approaching teenage years, or whatever, or even until they're 8 or 9. No, if they have an internet connected device in their hand, and it's not just so that they're protected at those younger ages, it's also so that it becomes a way of life in your home, and it is so much easier to add to what they're able to do than to take it away. Because once you've allowed them to have something, then to take it back, I mean, you can do it, but you're going to
have a good parenting practice, right? Just overall, right?
They're going
you can
to be
always
much,
give more, but it's harder to take it back.
Exactly. So you just slowly let out the line and make sure you're very comfortable with an app before you let them have it. Make sure you've dug and investigated about it, and don't just go by what they say about it, but check it out for yourself. And I have a page called the App Watch page. It's one of my posts. If you search App Watch on my website, it will go over some of the most common apps. And they're, just because it's on that page doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad app. It just means that you need to decide if it's right or not for your family and what it's able to do.
Okay. So a question I have for you is, because combined with your computer monkey business, will you actually help parents go into their systems and get this type of stuff set up, or is your Sensible Cyber Parenting program just merely education?
Right. That is a very good question. When I first started doing it, I was, of course, about education, but then also I would help parents set up their parental controls. I no longer help parents set up their parental controls by doing it for them. I am always happy to hold their hand and walk through it with them. The reason I do that is because it isn't effective if you do it for them, because then they don't learn. And then when something happens at 10:30 at night, when Johnny needs to get his homework and something has gone wrong and it's not letting him download something because of a parental controller or whatever, I'm just throwing that out as an example, I'm not available to help in that case. They need to be able to do that on their own and take that responsibility on. But I'm more than welcome to hold their hand and answer questions and answer emails and talk to people on the phone. I do it all the time. But I don't do it for people anymore because of that. The one exception is I do set up OpenDNS on their router, because that's just simply going into the router controls and putting some numbers in, and it is definitely, that is one of the only things that's kind of set it and forget it. You put those numbers in and you leave it there. But I only will do that part for them for those reasons.
The rest is teach them.
Right.
Yeah. And that's really admirable, because I definitely want to make sure viewers understand what's happening here, because you're actually giving up money doing that. Because if they need you to do it for them, something goes wrong, they could call you and you charge them a fee for that. And so by actually teaching them how to do it, I mean, you're clearly more concerned about the children involved in this than anything else, because you want them to be able to resolve the problem on site, because it's not, instead of having to wait for you to come in, and who knows how much content has been viewed by that time, or to have unprotected devices.
And the companies that make these products and services, they really do have a heart. I mean, obviously they're a company and they're in business and they want to make money, but they also have a heart for protecting families, and their support is actually really good. Their websites are good for the most part, and providing the steps. And like for the example of the circle, it really couldn't be more easy to set up. They make it very easy. So the companies do really want to help parents, and so that's also a resource for them. If they're using the product of a certain company, they do provide great support usually. But I'm available too.
Okay. And so with your program, I wanted to bring up is a part of your ministry, right? Because this developed out of your own faith. Right. But one thing that I appreciated is something that you sent me, and I'm going to put this quote up on the screen here, where you said, "The reason I do sensible cyber parenting is because of my faith, but it doesn't take faith to be a sensible cyber parent."
Absolutely. Yeah. Parents of all, religious status or, faith walks, they all want to protect their kids, I think, and so it really doesn't matter. This is why I do it. I call it the quote ministry wing of my business, because I just, it was just something that I thought, this is so sad what is happening in these families, and it just really was something that I felt strongly about doing. But yes, it doesn't matter. I mean, the information on my website, it really doesn't matter what your walk of faith is. It's available to help, and I'm available to help all families with that struggle.
Sure. And as we're talking about a struggle, this can feel very scary. Right, I had one client say it feels like the Wild West with the internet, right? And how do you, set laws for that? So what encouragement would you offer, parents about how to navigate this and about technology?
Yeah, and this is one of those areas where I kind of walk a tightrope between my passions here, because I'm very sympathetic, and I've been there, even as techie as I am. Some of the times when I was trying to work out certain things with parental controls at my own house, were pretty frustrating. So I know, and I sympathize, and I would say one thing to encourage them is that they're obviously not alone. There are all these other parents that are struggling with the same thing, and there are companies like not just mine, but the people who are making these products that want to help them. But then I also struggle a little bit with my passion that they need to be parents, and this is something very important that you need to do for your children. And whether you feel like you don't know anything about technology or not, you need to learn. You need to put in the time, because they're your children and it's important. And take those spend those hours on the weekend digging around and looking online to find out what's going to be best for your family, learning how to use it. If it takes hours for, several days in a row, it's worth it. It is important. And so I struggle with, I want to be encouraging, like I really understand. And then on the other hand, I also want to shake them by the shoulders and say, come on, you need to do this because of what's out there. So it's encouragement and
truth telling.
Do you find that parents are not wanting to do it, or is this they simply just don't know where to begin because it's so overwhelming? Like, it seems so big.
I think the latter is probably more common, because I have had many parents say, well, I'm just not tech savvy. I just don't know what to do. I don't even know how to, do such and such on my phone. Well, that's okay, but you gave your children these computers that are, I heard somebody talking the other day, that are more powerful than what NASA used to put someone on the moon the first time,
Wow.
So, I mean,
that'll
you're
get
putting that in their hands.
Sure.
So with that comes a responsibility. And so it's one of those things where, they need to do it, and they need to feel that it's important. And overcome their fear and anxiety, even if it means going to a VOTEC and taking a class or something to become more comfortable with a computer and phones and things like that. Because when we're passionate about something, if we feel that something's important, we're going to put in the time and effort to learn it or to accomplish it. So, and the same goes with your kids' protection online.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
Wonderful.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing this information with us. I want to make sure that our viewers know how to get a hold of you. So we did mention the website, sensiblecyberparenting.com, and throughout this presentation, I've put your Facebook page and your Twitter on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now too. And I've gone to Sensible Cyber Parenting's social media accounts, and it seems like that you do a really good job of getting good articles and things posted, in addition to the information that's on your blog. I read some stuff on your blog, some really good information. So go check out Diana and Sensible Cyber Parenting on Facebook and Twitter, which is at Sense Cyber Parent. And you can see the link to that on the screen. And again, it's been a real joy having you here today.
We've learned a lot.
I've already got in my on my Amazon cart the circle.
All right.
Ready
Good
to
job.
go.
Okay.
And,
Weekend project.
And with a bunch of other things I got to do. I'm gonna have to get that wired into the system. And so let us go ahead and mention the next show we have coming up, which will be in a couple weeks. We are actually going to have Alexandra Katahakis on the show, and you can see her picture there now, where she is going to talk with us about what is erotic intelligence. And let me just tell everybody, you don't want to miss this. She is top notch, on top of her game when it comes to this stuff. It's a really interesting topic too, this idea of erotic intelligence, and we're really looking forward to having her on in 2 weeks.
She has lots of knowledge to share.
All right, and so make sure that you stay tuned for that. Go find the event on our Facebook page and like that event, and that'll keep you informed on that. And so thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for being here, and we'll be back live in 2 weeks.